You ever notice how some people don't talk much, but somehow they understand everything? They don't overshare. They don't chase attention. They don't feel the need to explain themselves. And yet, when things fall apart, they're usually the ones who stay calm, the ones who figure it out, the ones who don't panic. It almost feels like they were trained for chaos. But they weren't trained. They were shaped. And if you've ever felt like you had to grow up faster than everyone else, this might explain why. Imagine being a child and realizing very early on that no one is coming, not because something dramatic happened, not because everything was obviously broken, but because people just weren't there. Not really. You come home, the house is quiet, too quiet. You drop your bag, you make your own food, you sit with your thoughts, because there's no one else to sit with. At first, it feels normal. Then slowly, it becomes something else. A message. You're on your own. That's the environment many Gen X kids grew up in. And here's the thing most people miss. It didn't just make them independent. It changed how they see the world. Because when you grow up without someone consistently checking in on you, your brain learns something very specific. Don't rely on people. Figure it out yourself. Pause for a second. Think about your own life. When something goes wrong, what's your first instinct? Do you reach out, or do you handle it alone? For a lot of people shaped like this, asking for help doesn't feel natural. It feels like failure, not because they don't have people around them, but because depending on someone was never part of the system. So they adapt. They become the one who knows how to fix things, the one who stays calm under pressure, the one who doesn't break down easily. And from the outside, it looks like strength, but inside, it's something else. It's a constant pressure to never need anyone. And it doesn't stop there. Because when you grow up in that kind of environment, you don't just learn independence, you learn unpredictability. One moment, things are fine. The next, everything changes. Parents separate, jobs disappear, rules shift overnight. And suddenly, the world doesn't feel stable anymore. It feels conditional. Like everything can be taken away at any moment. So you adapt again. You stop expecting things to last. You stop trusting stability. You prepare for the worst, even when things are going well. Not because you're negative, but because experience taught you something different. This is where it gets interesting, because people often mistake this for cynicism. But it's not really cynicism, it's protection. It's your mind saying, I've seen this before, I know how this ends. So you stay a little distant, a little guarded, a little ready, just in case. And that's also why you don't see them everywhere online. Not because they don't understand technology, not because they're behind, but because they come from a world where privacy meant safety, where mistakes didn't follow you forever, where your life wasn't something you broadcast. So the idea of sharing everything feels uncomfortable, exposed, risky. They learned early. The less people know, the safer you are. But here's another layer most people don't talk about: humor, sarcasm, distance, that slightly detached way of reacting to things. That's not random. That's armor. Because when you grow up in a world that feels uncertain, you learn to not get too attached. You learn to soften reality before it hits you, to laugh before it hurts, to keep things just far enough away so they don't break you. And yet, despite all of this, there's something almost paradoxical about them. They don't trust easily. They don't depend on others. They don't ask for help. But when someone else needs help, they show up, quietly. No announcement, no recognition needed, just there. That kind of loyalty doesn't come from comfort. It comes from knowing what it feels like when no one shows up. Now think about how that affects work. Not the kind of work you post about, not the kind that gets attention, the kind that just gets done. Because for them, work was never about passion first. It was about survival, responsibility, real consequences. They learned early that if you don't do what you're supposed to do, things fall apart. So they built something stronger than motivation. They built discipline. And here's the twist most people don't expect. They don't trust systems, but they trust themselves. They don't believe a company will protect them. They don't believe stability is guaranteed. But they do believe this: if something goes wrong, I'll figure it out. That mindset is powerful, but it comes with a cost. Because when you believe you always have to handle things alone, you also struggle to let people in, not because you don't want connection, but because connection feels unfamiliar, unpredictable, even dangerous. Pause again. Be honest with yourself. Do you feel safer when you're in control, even if that means being alone? Because that's the hidden pattern. Control becomes comfort, and comfort becomes isolation. And over time, that turns into something deeper. You stop asking for help. You stop expecting support. You stop believing anyone will really be there, not because it's true, but because it's what you learned. But here's the part that changes everything. That version of you, the one who had to figure it out alone, was never supposed to carry everything forever. That was survival, not identity. You weren't meant to always be the strong one. You weren't meant to always handle everything on your own. You just didn't have a choice back then. And maybe that's where things begin to shift, not by becoming someone new, but by realizing you don't have to stay the same. Because strength isn't just about independence. Sometimes real strength is letting someone see you without your armor. And maybe the most powerful thing you can ask yourself isn't, can I handle this alone? But what would happen if you didn't have to do it alone?